Welcome to the Highlights Show. I'm Phil Kessler.
And I'm Amy Ryan. It's great to be here.
Wow. Just finished that webinar and my head is absolutely buzzing. I mean, I genuinely went in with one idea of vacant land investing and now it's completely shifted.
Yeah, agreed. Some of it, felt familiar from other real estate areas, but what really struck me was how accessible they made it sound. The scalability too. Especially for like an individual investor, it really makes you reconsider the barriers to entry, doesn't it?
Exactly. We just spent, the last hour looking at this incredibly fresh take on vacant land, specifically how to unlock value in these parcels that just seem forgotten, dormant. And for me, the big thing right away wasn't big construction projects or anything. Mm-hmm. It was the focus on owner financing and these creative leasing strategies that just, boom, completely rewired my thinking, especially about how you could approach land without needing tons of upfront cash.
It's a total paradigm shift, isn't it? Sort of suggests a model where it's more about control and cash flow rather than just traditional development.
Absolutely. Makes it feel like you don't even need to be a developer to play in this space, which is interesting. So, okay, moving from those core ideas.
Yeah.
What really grabbed me next was their marketing angle. I mean, direct mail. Seriously. In this day and age, it feels almost, backwards, but they made a really compelling case for how effective it still is.
It does seem old school on the surface, but what's fascinating, I think, is how precisely it targets those motivated sellers. Think about it, right? A lot of this vacant land, it's owned by people who maybe inherited it, or they live out of state, or they just see it as a burden, a line item on their tax bill. They're not actively searching online to sell, so direct mail just cuts through all that noise, lands right in their mailbox. Often it probably arrives when they least expect it, but maybe they're most open to an offer that just solves that problem for them. It really highlights the power of being super targeted, avoiding all the usual market competition.
Yeah, and the specific idea of targeting out-of-state owners, that's just smart. Genius, almost. They're less likely to be emotionally attached, probably don't visit the property often, if ever.
Precisely. Turns that distance into an advantage, really. Creates a win-win. The owner gets some relief, maybe some cash, and the investor gets an asset, often at a really good discount.
Okay, speaking of overlooked opportunities, here's where my jaw kind of dropped. The financing part, it wasn't about getting bank loans, was it? Not really. They dove into something called tax certificates and tax deed sales. Now, for folks listening who might not know, could you maybe quickly sketch out what that means?
Yeah.
Because it sounded, less conventional, but potentially super powerful as an entry point.
Yeah, that's definitely a critical piece. Basically, tax certificates are tax liens. They're liens on a property for unpaid taxes. An investor can buy these liens. Then, if the owner doesn't pay back the taxes plus interest within a certain time, the certificate holder might eventually be able to acquire the property itself. Depends on the state rules, of course. Tax deed sales are a bit more direct. The county or city sells the property outright to recover those unpaid taxes. So, you're essentially getting property by paying off someone else's back taxes, often for way, way less than market value.
Sounds like it needs a lot of homework, careful due diligence, but also incredible leverage if you do it right.
Oh, absolutely. Tons of research needed. And the webinar definitely stressed understanding local laws, property history, all that. But the power is getting properties with extremely low entry costs. It cuts your initial capital way down. And that makes profitability much more reachable. Even on deals that might seem too small or out of reach otherwise, it really just expands the pool of what's possible land-wise.
You know what I really like, though? The specific examples, like the really down-to-earth ones they shared. The idea of buying land for just a few $1,000s, their words, and then turning it into substantial profits just by doing minor stuff, like clearing it, maybe figuring out utility access. It really makes you look twice at every overgrown lot you drive past, doesn't it? It's just smart, simple value adds.
It absolutely does. And it raises that big question, right? How often do we just overlook simple, actionable steps that could massively increase value? It's not always about some grand development plan. Sometimes it's strategic, small tweaks. And that ties into what they said about developing automated systems, for the marketing side, like having templates ready for those mail campaigns or outsourcing some of the initial digging for info. That makes the whole thing scalable. Less dependent on you doing everything manually all the time, frees you up to actually find the deals.
And honestly, that tip about maybe engaging local fire departments for property clearance, that was so unique. Like, who even thinks of that? Such a practical, out-of-the-box idea.
Exactly. It's those kinds of unexpected, practical insights that really show the creative thinking behind this whole approach. It's about using resources that are already there, seeing opportunities where other people just see, I don't know, obstacles or costs.
So pulling it all together, looking at the big picture here, what does this actually mean for you listening in? Well, it really forces you to rethink what real estate investing even looks like. It's not just houses and apartments. This whole discussion, it just challenges that idea that you need huge amounts of capital or complicated development plans to get into land investing.
Absolutely. It's fundamentally about cultivating a mindset, really, seeing that overlooked potential everywhere, and understanding that knowledge combined with these creative strategies, owner financing, that targeted marketing, the minor improvements, that stuff can be just as valuable as having deep pockets, maybe even more so. It's about turning what others just dismiss as vacant into something vibrant, something profitable, often with surprisingly low barriers to get started.
Honestly, though, we've barely scratched the surface of what was in that session. There was so much more. They went deeper into figuring out land value, practical negotiation stuff, and yeah, those case studies were fascinating. Really brought it home.
Definitely. So if you found these ideas intriguing, as much as we clearly did, the full session itself is truly worth watching from start to finish. It laid out a real step-by-step approach. And they even mentioned specific resources like the Vacant Land Gold System guides, offers, the works. For anyone ready to really explore this, they gave out specifics like visiting john.vacantlandgold.com or calling 941-792-5390. Worth checking out if this sparked something.
Makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other vacant opportunities are just sitting out there waiting for a bit of that marketing magic, maybe some creative thinking, to transform them into something genuinely valuable?